Welcome to the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast, where we take you inside our gym, CrossFit Palm Beach, each week. It's here that we are creating new superhumans every day, transforming people's lives, helping them reach a level of health they never knew possible. We strive to answer your most burning questions on fitness, health, nutrition, training, motivation, mindset, lifestyle, and more. If you have a question, please email us at info@crossfitpalmbeach.com. You can also learn more on our blog, livingsuperhuman.com. And if you have a moment, we'd love a review from you on iTunes. All right, it's time. Let's stop being average and start living superhuman. Welcome to the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast. My name is Andrew Frezza, and I'm joined today by
Tony Frezza,
Zach Egan,
and Danielle Bettigrew.
And today we're going to be talking about why food quality matters. And I wanted to kick it off with just kind of defining what food quality is, just so we have a little bit of a point of reference. And keeping it really simple, food quality is whole foods, foods that are from the earth, plants or animals, minimally processed, nutrient-dense foods. So that's kind of the starting point that we're going to be going with. So why does food quality matter? What are the benefits of food quality, some of the key benefits that you guys can think of first?
Well, there's a lot of diets out there, and I feel like all of them kind of can agree on one thing, and that's that there's got to be quality food, and it has to start with quality food, right? There's tons of benefits behind it, but kind of the main thing is like all the nutrients and the vitamins that come with real foods. So like say like a macro tracking diet, you're very concentrated on macros, but when you get those real foods, you're gonna get the micronutrients as well with them.
Yeah, maybe we start with a little definition. So macro is protein, carbs, and fat, whereas your micronutrients are your vitamins and minerals, your vitamin A through however many there are, Z, I don't know how many there are. Okay. And then you got minerals like magnesium and zinc and things like that, that you're just going to get more of in real foods versus a packaged food.
I think with any diet, digestion is king with all of it. Like you want things that digest easily, and that's probably what a huge benefit from eating these whole foods and these nutrient dense foods and foods with single ingredients is that your body just digests them better, and so you're getting more nutrient absorption, you're getting more bang for your buck with everything that you're eating. Digestion is,
fiber.
I love fiber.
And you're not taking in anti-nutrients or toxins or stuff that's gonna kind of hinder the absorption of the good food that you're taking in.
I think a big benefit for me is like the inflammation factor. So I say this all the time, but every time I have like a weekend of eating bad, or I'm out of town or whatever, have a birthday, whatever it may be, like when I come back to the gym, I can feel it in my elbows. Like my elbows particularly just like feel like they're full of inflammation, and that's like strictly 100% food related. Like coming back from an injury, having like a big shoulder surgery, that was like the pivotal point of recovering and getting back to 100%, and being stuck at this point where I just thought I had a horrible surgery that was never going to feel the same, was switching my food and eating whole foods, and that makes a huge difference. And we all get inflammation in here when we're working out and tearing down our muscle. Like that's a big deal for us as CrossFitters to get in foods that are anti-inflammatory, and eating fish or fish oil or whatever it's going to be. But that is probably my biggest thing that stands out when I try and prioritize, my quality of food.
Yeah, I like that you brought that up. I feel like we've all had the bad weekend and felt it on Monday in some way. And you mentioned more of like the aches and pains. I feel like for me personally, it's like I don't get that second wind in a workout. I don't have that gear, and it's just like trudging through quicksand the whole day. And like that's kind of how it plays out for me. I have a little bit of the aches and pains, but that's really how it plays out for me. Curious about you guys, when you feel like you go off track, where do you see it affect you the most?
I think anytime I get like an injury or a tweak or something, it's always on a Monday. after a couple of days of not eating that well. So Thursdays and Fridays I can let it rip, but Mondays I gotta take it easy. I'm like, yeah, I'm 35, I'm an old man.
We're all there. Yeah, I think for me it's at the end of the days. Like I can start to really feel like, when I'm in tune with what I'm eating and the quality of my food is where it needs to be, I'm able to sustain that energy over the day and over the long haul, maybe 2, maybe 3 workouts if that happens in a day, which sometimes it does, if I'm lucky. And so, that's where I can really feel it. When there's nothing worse than so now I'm going to go into a second workout or something like that, a second session in the day, and you hit the wall before the warm up even ends. And when my eating is on point and my quality of food is on point, that doesn't really happen as much. Yeah.
And when you have people, at least for me, like with nutrition clients, people come in and don't even realize like that wall that they're hitting isn't normal until they start to switch things around, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I've been like living in this cloud. Like I thought I sucked at CrossFit, I thought I was never gonna get better, and then just with like little minor tweaks here and there, changing that around, the difference is just drastic. So
and I think a lot of them, talking about going back to like digestion and how that plays into your gut health and things like that, people don't see them being tired as a gut issue. And a lot of those things and like how we digest foods and how we break down our food is directly related to our energy levels. But a lot of people think it's an absence of energy, so I need more caffeine or I need more something else instead of hitting it from the other side.
It's like symptom, and then how can I attack this
how do I
with
put a
sugar,
Band-Aid
caffeine,
on this thing?
Yeah, and I think we've hit on some of the benefits. I don't know if we really touched on like the mental clarity side. You guys talked a little bit about energy, reducing inflammation, reducing injuries. There's so many of these benefits from food quality, and I think if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, I've never really experienced that, you've probably never really eaten that clean, like eaten that well to experience it, because once you've kind of opened your eyes to that, even if you've only done it for a few weeks, it just shows you how good you can feel and how much of the impact is there. So, I'd encourage you, if you kind of are just listening to this and you're like, I don't really agree, you probably have never really gotten dialed in enough to feel that good.
Yeah.
100%. I think I crave eating well just like I crave my workout. Like I need to sweat today. Or like I started to crave ice baths, which is really weird, but I like crave it now because my body's like, you need that. Like you need that reset. And yeah.
And once you have exposure to it and the benefits of it, then you can recognize when they're happening, and then you start to feed into it a little bit more. Like for me also, like the beginning of my days, so I notice when the quality of my food is up, I feel more energy when I get out of bed. So I can then say, okay, I will have, a small cup of coffee instead of 2 or 3 cups of coffee or something. Like I've been able to pull back on my caffeine consumption quite a bit as I've eaten better. And because I'm pulling back on my caffeine consumption, I have cleaner energy and I have more energy during the day, and it's this trickle down effect from there. But you can either start to throw things on top of a bad diet and things get worse, or you start from this really good diet and things start at this high place, and you don't have to start adding in additional things that are not organically useful.
I'm curious with you guys, like from a practical day-to-day perspective, when you notice your food quality is down, like what are the signs you notice, and then what are the actual things that are happening? So like an example for me is like if I get to the end of the day, I'm like really sluggish, and I look back at my day, I'm like, I ate no vegetables today. Like I didn't drink any water today. Like that's why I'm tired. Do you guys do you have moments like that? And what are those things for you that you look back and you're like, I had too much of this, or I didn't have enough of that in terms of like quality?
If I don't sleep well, it's usually where I'll notice it. And then kind of going back to my other point, like it all builds on itself. So I realize I didn't eat well, and then I'm like, oh, that's why I didn't sleep well. And I didn't sleep well, so I wake up, and I'm someone who I track my weight every day on like an Excel spreadsheet, which I don't think everyone needs to do, but that's something that I've done. It's become a habit. And I'll notice that like I'll wake up a pound or 2 heavier the nights I don't sleep well. So it constantly has this like compound effect from how I'm eating and how I'm sleeping, and that affects how I'm weighing, and it's just all those things play into each other. I think that like water and sleep and all those things are just as integral into our nutrition as the food that we're eating probably. But they're all woven together.
I feel like for me it's more of an emotional effect. Like I get like really sad and like want to cry about like the dishwasher or like something totally random, but I feel that like I feel more of the mental fog and like sadness, depression of brownies and all that, regret.
And then
But-
what's causing that? Is that too much sugar for you, or what causes that?
Yeah, it's got to be a sugar thing. I don't know, like foods that I'm not normal to, and my body is like, wait, where'd the broccoli go? But yeah, I noticed like a major wave of sadness. So could be the sugar, could be.
Yeah, they say, what foods do you like? I don't eat the foods that I like. I eat the foods that like me. And I figured that out an hour after I've eaten.
Yeah.
So, and it takes a lot of like analysis, a lot of honest analysis of what you're eating and how you're feeling, and tracking those things.
That's a really good point. I think to get, because food quality, we mentioned the whole foods thing and the
It's
minimally
unique
processed,
to-
but it is unique to each person, right? Everyone kind of reacts different things, and I think if we can get to the point where we're not evaluating foods based on how we feel in that moment as we're eating them, but in the hour to 6 to 8 hours afterwards, if you can just delay that a little bit in terms of how you evaluate a food, it makes a big difference.
I also I don't know if that's kind of done this point, but like, all of us have eaten a decent meal, and then 90 minutes later or 2 hours later, you're going to go do a workout, or you're not planning to work out, but you're like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym, and you get to the gym.
I feel like that happens
Workout
more
pops
for you
up.
than just me.
Okay, what happens to me? But I think everyone's been in the place where they've gotten to the gym and they get to working out and they realize that they haven't digested what they've eaten. And the better food you eat, the less that happens. So whenever you're in a workout, and unless you ate like 30 minutes ago, it's pretty obvious what's going on there. But if you ate 2 hours before and you're working out and you're like kind of burping it up, you're just like, ugh, like I still taste my lunch. Chances are that lunch probably is not sitting well with you, because in 2 hours after you've eaten, you should be ready to work out. And so that's just that for me. I guess kind of going back to that last point, but that's a good checklist for
I like
me.
that.
Well, kind of back to what you said, like, and just because something is healthy doesn't mean that your body is really going to accept it. Like, everybody has things that their body doesn't tolerate. Like, one of my favorite things to eat is spaghetti squash, and I literally can't handle it. I get like so sick, can't leave the bathroom every single time I eat spaghetti squash, because I feel like an alien is trying to like get out of my stomach. But I mean, spaghetti squash is great and has a ton of minerals and vitamins, and it's great for you, but it's just like I literally can't do it. So like a good way to kind of figure out if something is going to be good for you is to cut it out for 2 weeks, 30 days, whatever it is, and see if you feel a difference. And
That's great.
Beets are that food for me. I like them, but
you're not missing out.
yeah.
For
Beets
me,
are
it's sweet
worst.
potatoes.
Oh,
I'm
it's so
sorry.
sad. Oh,
Weird,
man.
right? Yeah, regular potatoes don't do that, but sweet potatoes don't sit well with me.
What a bummer.
Try the white ones. They're so good.
Oh yeah, those sit well.
So,
Oh wait, the white sweet potatoes?
the
no,
Hannah's,
I don't. No,
they're
I
good.
thought you meant no. I have sweet potatoes just don't work. I don't know why. I don't digest them.
If after this podcast you guys are Googling what poop should look like, then we've done our job.
Precision Nutrition has a great graphic.
Amen.
Amen.
Poop's a big deal. It's an important topic.
yeah, so Tony kind of touched on this earlier, which is like regardless of what diet you're on, you should be prioritizing food quality in that, and you can get more food quality. So whether you're doing macros, you're doing paleo, you're doing low carb, low fat, zone, keto, like it doesn't matter. You can actually work towards more nutrient dense foods, more real foods. And there's also a really bad way to do any of those diets. You can make them very low food quality. Even a diet like paleo, which is a food quality diet, and you're not tracking your quantities so much, could also be it can be done in a low quality way. And I think we all want to be moving the needle towards quality in whatever framework we're adding to that in another diet.
I think a good example for me is, because I have been tracking for years. I've been tracking what I've eaten for years. And last year when we went to Madison, I was there. I mean, I was tracking as much as I am right now. I was absolutely as compliant. But today versus a year ago, I eat way better in terms of my food quality. And if you go look at a picture of me from the games, the games just posted a picture of like the swim event, and it was all the teams lined up at the line, and we were there in the picture, and I was like, oh my God, I was fat at the games, and I wasn't fat, but like
there's like a little,
but there's just a lot of
now.
inflammation on me
Yeah.
because I was getting all of my calories from rice cakes and Chex and powders and protein shakes. And now I don't eat any of that stuff. I don't eat any protein shakes. I don't have any, I may have a protein shake in like a really big pinch before class if I have to do it because I need to get something in because I won't eat for a while. But typically not. I always have fruit on me because I'm getting fruit in. And I know it's got sugar, but for me as an athlete, the way I train, I feel like it's good for my digestion, it's good for nutrients, and it's good for those carbs after a workout. But it's just quality ingredients and quality food that's not processed. And if you look at me aesthetically today as to where I was, I'm eating really close to the same amount, definitely eating more fat, and I look far leaner than I did then. And I'm performing better, I think, than I was then.
You also said too, you had mentioned this to me the other day, that you feel more full on less calories because you're eating more real foods.
Yeah, so I am eating 300 to 400 calories on average less than I was last year. And because I'm compliant and I track everything, I know that number. But I feel way more full because instead of having, 2 cups of white rice and some chicken, I'm having, and it would be like 7 ounces of chicken or 8 ounces of chicken or something like that, to like half that amount in steak, and then a plate of broccoli and like 2 cups of carrots, or a cup of carrots, and like tomatoes and avocado and all these different like really good nutrient dense foods that fill me up a lot. It takes me a while to eat it, which I like. I want to sit there for a while and eat. Like, that makes me happy. My wife gets annoyed by it because she has to wait there.
Still eating?
She's like, I'm just going to bed because you're just going to be here for a while. But yeah, it definitely eating more with less calories, feeling fuller longer. For some people, some people like, I can't get the calories in. I mean, we've talked about this. I'm like, I've eaten all the calories I have, and people would love to have the amount that I have, but I'm eating all of it, and I can't get full. Like, there's
still hungry.
Yeah, and then the switch was shifting into the whole foods and just getting rid of the powders. It's like I'm wasting 100 grams of carbs a day on these powders when I could get them in fruit and vegetables and potatoes and all these different things that are much more volume based in my stomach.
That's awesome.
I think that's a good time to talk about like the tracking macros, and Danielle helps people, track what they're doing and helping them get the bang for their macro buck, right?
Yeah.
So that they don't just go out and spend it all on one little processed meal. They're actually like planning it out with like good nutrient dense foods and like getting more food.
Well, yeah, it doesn't take very long. Like, I feel like macros kind of gets a bad reputation in the fact that, you can fit in donuts and you can fit in all this stuff. Like, you only do that once, and then you're like, oh wait, I'm never gonna waste 250 calories on a donut ever again. And that's when you start to switch and you find things that do make you full. And I don't have anybody who's eating stuff that you would consider bad quality food and they're still tracking macros.
Think about it. You could have a donut, or you could have like 3 bananas. Like, I'm just saying, like, you could have so much. A cup of almonds. You could have like a lot of food compared to this one little donut that might be good for 2-3 minutes, but like you're full. You're not full. You didn't feel like you ate anything, and then 2 hours later, you're going to be hungry again, and now you're like, oh, I have no more numbers, so I can't eat, and it's just like this game that's never going to be in your favor.
I have a salad that I eat I've been eating it twice a day because I'm obsessed with it, but it's got sugar-free barbecue sauce, Greek yogurt ranch dressing. It's 300 grams of lettuce and then like 4 ounces of chicken, and it's like this big, and it takes me like an hour to eat. Literally.
Yeah, we've watched you eat that.
Yeah, well, this one's even better. But literally, like, I could eat a donut in 2 seconds for that salad. I would choose that salad a million times over.
Yeah.
And it's satisfying. Like, you just have to find things that you like, and then you don't even think about sacrificing food quality.
I think it's a good point that you're saying is that, and I think you guys are both saying it, is, you know, eating macros for like whatever you want, if it fits in your diet, is not, I mean, I'll just tell you, it's not the way to go. It isn't. But I follow macros. I also follow a specific, you know, nutrient dense quality foods, and you can do both. It's, you know, so they're not exclusive of each other. They can be done. You know, and you could follow other diet plans. You can follow however you want to do it, zone diet or whatever, but you could still, you know, what the quality of the food is the common denominator underneath it all.
Yeah, and I think one of the simplest things that I've heard kind of all of you guys say in different ways is like it really comes down to eat more vegetables. Like that's such an easy way. Like if you just narrowed it down to that category and you ate more vegetables, you're going to get your food quality up, and you can do that with pretty much any type of diet.
Yeah, micronutrients, fiber, all those things that you need. Protein is in a lot of your vegetables. A lot of that stuff is rich in those macronutrients.
Let's talk about some faults of like just focusing on quality and maybe at the exclusion of quantity potentially. I've seen this like with paleo a lot, where you're just so focused on quality. And yeah, we mentioned that when you focus on quality, it keeps you fuller longer. Like by focusing on quality, you are likely to dial in to some degree your quantities, right? But there's still, I think, a lot of mistakes happening. So where do you see people going off with that?
I see it like a lot of people who follow like the paleo or trying to stick to a more like keto-based diet. They're eating way more calories than they really kind of can figure out. So a lot of people who come in and they're like, oh, I snack on a bag of almonds literally all day. I add Kerrygold to everything. I put olive oil on everything. And people don't really realize how calorically dense like oils and butters and stuff are for not very much added onto your meal, especially volume-wise. Like a tablespoon of oil, 120 calories. It's not going to make you feel really any fuller than adding nothing. So I think that is probably the biggest fault, especially with the fats compared to other macros and stuff like that.
I was gonna say the fats is the downfall really there most of the time. Like, well, hey, I had salmon and avocado and macadamia nuts, and yeah, those are all great, like wholesome ingredients, but it's a lot of fat, and if that's, you know, you do have to be aware of the that's where I think macros is a crucial thing to at least understand what it is that you're doing there. And then the quantity of those things, if you're eating too much of that, doesn't matter how good quality the food is, if you're eating far too much fat than you should be having, you're gonna have a hard time having the body that looks the way you want it to look.
Yeah,
I think lack of variety is probably one of the biggest things, where they'll be like, all right, I need to incorporate more clean foods, I know that, and then they'll latch on to just like a couple of them, and they'll have like, all right, I have grass-fed steak and peas every night. It's like, that's a start, but like you really got to have some like variety to what you're eating, and you don't just eat the same things over and over again.
Aiming for different colors of vegetables and stuff too. Different colors mean different micronutrients, which you want to get a good variety of all that. It's great if you're eating something that's super high in vitamin A, but if you eat that every single day, you know, you might have all these other deficiencies in different vitamins that you're not getting just because you won't branch out from broccoli or whatever.
Another big mistake that I see within this food quality thing is people focus more on what they're avoiding rather than what they're adding in. Like they're avoiding gluten, they're avoiding, you know, carbs, let's say, rather than like going back to just eat more vegetables in its simplest format, like eat more vegetables, you know, because a lot of packaged foods, and packaged foods would go against quality, but I think a lot of people are allowing themselves to eat a lot of packaged foods because they're saying, well, it doesn't have this thing in it, rather than focus on maximizing really good fruits and vegetables and lean proteins that they love, you know?
Yeah, I mean, all boils down to what mom said when you were a kid. Like, you stick to your vegetables and your fruits, and, you know, like, I think sometimes we do try to maybe overcomplicate it a little bit. It can be really simple. Like, we all know vegetables are good for you, so go find vegetables that you like and start to add that into your diet more fruits. You know, something that's been said since I was a kid was stick around the outside part of the grocery store so that, you know, it's like that's where the nutrient dense food is.
That's where the living foods are.
Yeah.
I think you can also kind of start to get into the frozen section too. I know we've talked about this before, but going to the frozen section and buying like a vegetable medley is a really good way for you not to have to buy a ton of different things that need chopping and then mixing. You can go to the frozen section and buy a medley that has 5 different veggies in it, and it's already ready for you to eat. And that quality isn't going to suffer just because it's frozen. So still has the same like nutritional profile as the fresh version, but kind of eases down the complication of buying different varieties of fresh ones too. Same thing goes for fruit.
Yeah, I know there's now like Publix has some even pre-made meals that are, you know, pretty good. It's all like real food ingredients, you know. It's pretty simple stuff. I think Walmart has them as well. Some are frozen, some are in the refrigerated section. You can get stuff like a rotisserie chicken, like if you're on the go and you need something that's like good, and just get, you know, vegetables with it and just have like an on the go meal. There's some things that we have on here that we're going to dive into, which is a little bit more like nitpicking, I think, in terms of this conversation of food quality. But for some of you guys, it matters. You know, for some of you guys that are pretty dialed in, you can get even more dialed in with this stuff. And that's things like, you know, looking for organic stuff, looking for grass-fed stuff. Do you want to talk about like the organic versus the non-organic stuff?
Yeah, so just with produce and things that are grown in the ground or grown from farmers, whatever it may be, like a lot of them have added hormones and pesticides and stuff like that, just because it makes foods bigger, you know, but beefing up our cows or whatever to make more product is, you know, higher profit for them. But the difference is, you know, what they eat is what we're putting in our body. What we eat is what they eat on the ground. So making sure that we're getting in foods that are from a high quality, that also, you know, prioritize their diet the same way that we want to, is really important. So like when we are choosing meats, looking for things like grass-fed, wild-caught, free-range, pasture-raised, things like that. You know, fish is going to be much happier if it was wild-caught in the ocean as compared to a fish that was, you know, raised on a farm with a million other fish who are just, you know, there for one sole purpose. And so I feel like it's especially important with meat, but it also does go down to the veggies that we've been talking about too. So I'll let you go from there. What?
Yeah, well, I was going to add to what you were saying on that. Like, I think one of the easiest examples, if you don't kind of like agree with this or believe in this, just go to Publix, get the cheapest egg in the store, then go get the pasture-raised version, break it open, look at the difference in color between the yolks, taste it. It's a completely different egg. Like, I know it's more expensive, but it is a different experience, and you can tell that it's a different end result. And with something like a farm-raised salmon versus wild-caught salmon, they test it, and the omega-3 levels are way higher in the wild-caught salmon versus it. So it's not just theory or anything like that. There's science that backs this being very different. And then when
the eggs also will change with the seasons. You know, like during like summer, the yolks get like brighter, and it's like you can see them change with the seasons. Whereas it's not like a scientific lab food. It's the same year round.
Definitely. And with the vegetables and fruits, you have organic versus non-organic, and you know, definitely we know it can get expensive. So, you know, you do your best, you make the best choice you can. But with certain vegetables, especially ones that you're going to be eating the outside of it, they tend to be on this dirty dozen list. So like we have the dirty dozen list. So like strawberries, spinach, kale, apples. These are foods that you want to try to get organic because the non-organic ones have the highest amount of pesticides and hormones added into them. Whereas stuff like avocados and pineapples and onions, those are things that you're not eating the outside of, and those they tend to be cleaner, and you can buy those non-organic. Avocados get expensive, so buy them non-organic if you can.
I think I've read like all the diet books, Whole30, Bulletproof Diet, and Bulletproof Diet, like he's really big into like making sure your stuff's clean. And he actually talks about how like in the past 3 decades from when the book was written, like all of these things in our lives, like asthma and diseases and ADHD and autism is like way on the rise, like ever since we've introduced like GMOs into our food and pesticides and not eating the clean foods that we were eating before.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we've talked about it just in different ways. It's amazing how many different ways the food can show up, in your life, from energy levels and performance in the gym to these little diseases that we don't even think twice about, like skin issues and ADHD and all this stuff. It's pretty crazy. Cool. So I want to talk about like how to eat intuitively. So we talked about like food quality. We talked about food quantity. Let's say someone like really wants to do the food quality thing. They're not tracking, but what's an easy way that they can dial in their food quantities to a certain extent while focusing primarily on quality, since that's kind of what we're focused on with this episode.
So you can kind of go to the plate method for that. Always kind of go directly to the veggies first and either eat those first or fill up at least half of your plate with veggies. At least for me, when I go out, that's what I do first, and then I kind of know going into it, if I want seconds, it's really just going to be more veggies if I do want to add on. But I do half a plate of veggies, and then a fourth of my plate is protein, a fourth of it is going to be some sort of carb, and then I'll just kind of be mindful and kind of gauge if it looks greasy, like if I can tell if things have been cooked in oil. If it looks like pretty lean and not greasy at all, then I know I can add on some avocado or whatever fat that may be. And I think that plate method is kind of a good rule of thumb for almost everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and realizing that your fats are going to be super dense, and like you're saying, you're kind of looking at the stuff that you already have. If you're at a restaurant, you don't have control of what it's cooked in, like estimating how much fat is really in here, and do I need to add fat, or is it already inherent in these foods?
Yeah, if you go to a restaurant, you can probably assume you don't need to add a fat.
Yeah, yeah, most likely. Cool. So is there anything else that you guys want to add to this conversation about food quality? Anything that we missed here?
Being in charge of making the food is going to make sure you're in charge of the quality. So when you eat out, you really don't know. So when you make it at home, you can really have a hand in how good the quality is.
Definitely. I like
And
that.
save a lot of calories for not any different feeling after.
Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. Well, that's it. Thanks for joining.